Hey, sis.
Whoop whoop. There you
Ooh,
are.
I see you, girl. You popping.
Girl. Hello. Look at you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we already got people on. Hey y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome.
So we're going to give people a few more minutes to join and everything.
So just a little tidbit. I hope you guys are able to stay for the entire live. We got gems sprinkled all throughout. So make sure you guys have your notebooks, make sure you have your water, get your snacks. Okay. You got a few minutes. We're probably gonna give people maybe 2 to 3 more minutes to jump on before we get started. So go get what you need and then be ready to be blessed.
All of that. All of that. But since while we wait, let me do a makeup check. Is my
Teeth
lips good?
check.
Am I?
Hold on,
Because
let
you
me
know,
see,
like,
sis. You
people
good. You
don't let
good.
you know. They'll just sit,
Look, y'all, if we get lipstick on our teeth, make sure y'all let us know. Okay, no hard feelings. But if you don't tell me, then you ain't real. Okay, you ain't
Right,
real
exactly,
if you don't
exactly.
let us
So
know if we got lipstick on our teeth. Okay?
just drop a comment and be like, sis, clean
Teeth.
this up.
Okay, send me the lipstick emoji if we got lipstick on our teeth. Okay, anytime through this live. Okay, so for those who just joined, we're giving people a few minutes just to get your water, get your notebooks, and get ready. And then we're going to get started.
All right, all right. Okay, I'm saying some
Sis, but
people.
let me see this cheetah shirt you got on though, because I mean,
I mean, I can't read.
you came ready. I mean, I got a little T-shirt, repping Delta, showing y'all what it is, what it do.
I see
But
you came
you
ready
got
too, sis.
you got your cheetah over there. I love it.
You got the nails done, girl.
Now y'all don't judge me for having silver earrings and a gold necklace because I had to wear my crystals. Okay, I had to wear my crystals, and it ain't coming silver. So y'all excuse that. Okay.
Girl, you popping.
Thank you, baby. You too. You too.
Thank you,
All
thank
right,
you.
so like one more minute. Y'all, if you're just joining, welcome, welcome. We're gonna be asking you guys to interact with us. So as we're talking, if we say something that you think is a gem or something that is fire, make sure you're dropping those emojis in the chat. So a gem emoji, a fire emoji. If you don't agree, put a thumbs down emoji and we'll address that later.
Hey,
Okay?
right, exactly. We addressing it all. Gotta address
Yes.
the elephant in the room.
And that's the thing. That's the thing.
Right, that's the thing. Yeah, ain't nothing going unaddressed tonight.
Y'all gonna get all the tea, okay? Y'all gonna get all the tea. We're coming very transparent with you guys because 2020 and 2021 has been extremely challenging. And I think one thing that I've learned is just let it all out, okay? Be true, be authentic to yourself, and deal with everything else later. So we're gonna be very authentic, very transparent with y'all. So that's it.
That's it.
All right, sis. 7:34. We got one more minute.
All right, then we're gonna jump into it.
Yeah. You gonna go first?
Yeah. All right, sis, we ready?
Okay, let's get it.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for even agreeing to do this with me. You know, it's not the easiest thing to jump on camera. So I appreciate you even being receptive and agreeing to do this with me.
Aw, thank you.
All right. All right. Well, I'm super excited to get into this topic. So I'm going to let you actually kick it off first with the
Okay.
introduction.
All right, beautiful. So my name is Rania. I see. Look, already it's already there. Y'all ain't let me know.
That's okay,
Anyway,
sis.
my name is Rania. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati with my degree in criminal justice and psychology. I am a new mother. I'm a pandemic mother. So my daughter was born 10 weeks early. So we are NICU warriors over here. What else I got? I am a survivor of sexual assault. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I am a survivor of molestation. So I have overcome so many different challenges, and that is the information that we're going to be sharing with you guys today. I had the opportunity to serve as a probation officer where I managed sex offenders, mentally disordered offenders, and treatment in lieu of conviction offenders. But as of now, I am currently a full-time entrepreneur. I have my own lash and brow business. Okay. So you see these lashes popping. Okay. I made those. If you
I
want some
see
tips,
you
hit me up
said.
too. But I do have my own business, and I go by the name of Royal Treatment by Rania the Lash Healer. So that's a little bit about me. We're going to give you guys so many good gems and tips today during this conversation. So let's get to it. Tia, passing it off to you.
All right, it's on me. So my name is Tia Marie Williams. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati in 2011. From there, I went to Xavier University, where I studied counseling with a concentration in school counseling. After I graduated from Xavier University, I worked in the mental health nonprofit school industry for about 8 years. During my time in that field, I worked with clients around issues concerning sexual abuse, depression, anxiety, as well as PTSD. I'm just so thankful for all of my knowledge and experience around that because I'm the type of person that if I know something, I want to share with other people because if it's something that I can do to help prevent someone from going through something or help them as they're going through something, I definitely want to do that. I am also the proud owner of Evolution Counseling, also known as Evo Counseling, and Fashion is a Habit. The goal of Evo Counseling is to put a different spin on counseling slash therapy. So I just want to use my social media platform to be more accessible to people because a lot of times when you're going through depression, you don't have the energy to wake up and say, let me schedule this counseling appointment. Let me do this. Let me reach out to this person. So with Evo Counseling, it gives people the space to, hey, if you're having a bad day or you're going through something, shoot me a DM, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and I can jump on and be there for you. And with Fashion is a Habit, the goal is to create celebrity looks for less. So,
Okay.
so since if we're watching an award show and you like, hey, I'm loving that outfit Rihanna's wearing, what I'll do is I'll go out to a thrift store or like a TJ Maxx or Marshalls and create the same look. So ultimately, my goal is to help you get the inside right as well as the
The
outside because
outside.
yes, because when you look good, you feel good. So that's a little bit about me.
And you know what? I just want to say real quick that I did not know prior to us having this conversation that you had addressed people with sexual assault issues. Like, that is so huge. So I think the fact that I experienced that and that's your expertise, that just shows that this whole conversation that we're going to have is God ordained. So that's just, I wanted to
Absolutely.
plug that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So go ahead and let them know how this thing came about.
So you guys are probably wondering how this whole thing came about. So as I was saying before, as I'm trying to grow my counseling business, I was looking at other like YouTubers and other like bloggers, just to kind of get ideas and see the direction that I wanted to go to. So I was on your page, sis. And I saw where you posted about addressing the elephant in the room. And you really went into detail about having those tough conversations, about addressing people that like you've let things go for so long and it's kind of built up. And I was just so inspired because I'm like, this is a big issue. And I know for me, it's a major issue because I can be conflict avoided as well as fearful of confrontation. So when I saw that you dropped that on your page, I was like, I gotta reach out to sis and we gotta get on live. We gotta do a show. And I know we had already talked about it, but when you had dropped that, that was just confirmation.
Look at that. Look at that. And actually, you know what? I gotta pay homage because I actually stole that post from somebody who's watching this live. So I'm gonna shout out to one of my mastermind sis. What is it? Shout out Towt. TOWT. That's the name of her business. Okay. But thank you for that post, because I was also inspired and then was able to post it on my page, add my own little spin, and from that, here is this conversation. So big ups.
Right. So, and here we are.
Okay, so we're gonna do a pulse check. I'm gonna drop in the chat a true or false question, and if you guys would be so kind to participate, and let us know what you think. So I'm gonna pin that. Hold on. Okay, so there are no negative repercussions to avoiding confrontational conversations. Is that true or false? We're gonna give y'all like 30 seconds to type it in and drop it in the chat, because we just want to see what you guys think. There are no negative repercussions to avoiding confrontational conversations. Let me wave at y'all real quick while y'all type that in. I really don't even know what wave means, but hi.
Okay, so I see a false popping up. Okay, okay. Another false. All right. Thank you. False.
Okay. So
false.
Awake. That was the
okay, y'all with us. They rocking with us, sis.
Rocking with us. Okay, so let's get into it then. That is absolutely false. That is absolutely false. And I'm gonna let the therapist, tell us why that's false.
Sure. So the majority of misunderstandings come from not addressing things and letting things go. So in most cases, a situation starts off small. We don't address it. At that moment, we let it go, continue to go. And during that time, we're just getting more upset. The anger is just building. And before you know it, we have this huge problem. And the majority of the time, we're the ones that's experiencing that negative energy, because the other person, they somewhere probably don't even know we upset, living their best life. And we walking around fixed, tight, upset. So, I mean, back to your question, it absolutely has negative repercussions when you don't address things. So why don't we address things?
Let's get into that. I would say we don't address things because of 1, fear.
Absolutely.
2, it's easier not to.
Right.
And 3, you don't really know how that person is going to respond.
Absolutely. So, sis, I'm gonna run it back because I get in my little tangent. So y'all in my story, so y'all bear with me. I want to kind of take a second to talk about fear of confrontation. I think that's a really big thing. As I told y'all earlier, I am very, very conflict avoidant. I am scared of confrontation. I will just run the opposite way or just try to smile and chin and grin until I can get myself out of the situation. So with that, it reminds me of a situation that I actually had with someone that I go to church with. So basically, the situation was that at the time I was going through my divorce. And this person that attends my church, I was confiding and opening up to them. So literally, like every day, I'm calling them, I'm in tears, I'm telling them what's going on with me. And, they had been like very supportive, very receptive. So it was one night I called them and I could tell that she was kind of busy. So I'm like, hey, sis, is this a good time? And she was like, yeah, like it's fine, go ahead. So basically I was just venting and I was just saying, I'm so tired of giving my all to these situations and feeling like I'm not coming back with anything in return. She goes on to say that pretty much like it was my fault. I was desperate. Like I practically forced him down the aisle. I got what sis was going in on me. Like
she was doing too much. She was doing too much.
She was doing a lot. So I was immediately hurt. I'm getting tight. And so instead of addressing the situation right then, I just get off the phone quickly. So I'm tight. I got an attitude. I get off the phone quickly. So from there, I'm like, I'm never going to tell her anything. I'm
But hold
so,
on. You said this was somebody in the church?
this is somebody in the church.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
And then,
Okay.
right, just to clear that up, right, yes, this was somebody in the church. So I get off the phone. I'm tight. I'm like, I'm never going to tell her anything again. So as the months go on, like she's continuing to call me and like she's telling me all the wonderful things in her life. But because I'm so upset, I'm just like, just trying to make it known that I'm upset without letting her know. And now looking back, kind of passive aggressive instead of just saying, hey, sis, that really offended me. So this
Right.
goes on for months and months and months. And mind you, it's just building up. I'm getting more and more upset. I'm telling anybody who would listen what happened, and they just hyping me
Right.
up. And I'm getting more
Right.
upset. And I'm telling everybody but the
Except her.
person that needs to know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, one day, I was talking about the situation to my therapist, and she encouraged me to, she was like, hey, this is eating you up inside. You got to let sis
Mm-hmm.
know. So she encouraged me. She was like, hey, if you're not at the point where you can talk to her, write her a letter, right?
Okay.
So, okay, so now we're at the point where
Is
I'm
that
about to
gym number one? Hold up. Gym number
hold
one.
up.
Okay. If you are not able to have that conversation, write the person a letter. Write the
So I
person a
did that.
letter.
So I did that. I wrote her a letter. I sent the letter off. I'll give myself
Oh,
credit.
you mailed the letter.
Yeah, oh yes.
Oh, okay.
I mailed
She put
it.
it in the mail. She ain't drop it off at church. She ain't slide it.
I mailed that thing.
Okay.
So sis ends up responding and she responds through text message. And
Okay.
basically her response is, that's not what I said to you. I said that you don't want to be XY. Somebody said signed, sealed, and delivered.
And
Come on
delivered.
with
Okay. Come on here.
it. So she basically is like, that's not what I said. I said that you don't want to be those things. You took it the wrong way. And I trust that you've already forgiven me.
Mm.
I'm gonna let that sit for a second. So at that point, honestly, I'm even more upset because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're minimizing what I'm telling you, and then
Avoiding. Mm-hmm.
you're avoiding and you're just
Mm-hmm.
glossing over what the issue is. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you just jumped in the driver's seat of my healing journey and you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me we're good and we're done. Side note, another gym, don't let people jump in the driver's seat and control your
Mm.
healing journey. So she had
Ooh.
just another gym. So she
Mm.
had just decided that, hey, we're over it. I've addressed it. I'm done. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of telling sis, like, hey, you know what? I'm not okay with this. I'm still hurt by this. Once
Mm-hmm.
again, I leave the conversation without addressing that I'm still hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So months and months go on again. And this time I'm just starting to distance myself. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
avoiding her. And I'll be honest with you, I stopped attending church.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, it just kept festering. And so it's like,
Mm.
even to this day, I still have not addressed the elephant in the room.
You
I,
ain't addressed that
I have
elephant?
not addressed it. I have not
Ooh,
addressed it.
sis. Sis. We're gonna have to call. We're gonna have to
So
call her
listen,
after this conversation. We're gonna
listen,
go, we're gonna send her this. We're gonna let her
right?
watch it.
I'm gonna send her another letter.
Mm.
But I mean, just to break that down further for y'all, a lot of y'all might be wondering what was the driving fear around me not telling her how I felt. So the first thing is honestly her position in the church. I felt intimidated and I had her on this pedestal where I'm feeling like I can't take this to her. I can't check her. She's this,
Mm.
she's that. And so I think sometimes we put people on pedestals to where we feel like, oh my goodness, I can't tell them that they've slighted me.
And you know what? Just to jump in real quick, one thing that is so awful is that when pain happens in church, what does it do? It makes you stop going to church. So that is why
Exactly.
it's so important to make sure that we know that regardless if the person is the pastor's wife, whatever, we cannot put these people on pedestals and allow them to impact your relationship with God and getting what you need. Because you quit going. And that happens so often.
So
That happens
often.
so often.
Absolutely. And then the next thing around my fear in terms of addressing her is I didn't want to look like a bad Christian. I didn't want to look like, oh my goodness, something actually bothers me, because I think that sometimes in the church that it's this almost expectation that everybody's walking around happy, everything's fine. And so it's like, I didn't want to look like, oh my goodness, this is something that's bothering me. You offended me. So the fear around, addressing her and just admitting to myself that I was bothered by it stopped me from addressing her. So as I look back at that situation, what could I have done differently? I try to stay away from what should I have done, and I look at what could I have done differently. The first thing is not letting months and months and months and months roll by without addressing it, because the only person that it was hurting was myself. Yeah. You see, because sis was still all thriving, doing her life. She was living her life. So the only
person, you were offended. She didn't even know.
Exactly. And I think that sometimes when we get offended by something because it's so obvious to us, we just assume that the other person should just know. Like, well, obviously this is offensive. You don't know what's wrong. Right. So that was the first thing that I would have wanted to do differently. The next thing in that is fully addressing the situation. Because did I address the situation? I did initially. I'll give myself credit. Yeah, I did initially. However, I didn't fully address it, and I let her jump in the driver's seat to decide that we were done with the discussion. I was healed. All was fine.
You didn't speak your truth. You didn't speak your truth.
And that wasn't authentic. And the last piece that I took away from that situation is not setting the boundary. Because if I look back at that situation, there had been other smaller incidents where I feel like comments were made that were not necessarily appropriate, that I didn't set that boundary then, and then it just got bigger, till we got to the point where we just saying anything.
And I think one thing that we can kind of just address is the majority of misunderstandings come from not addressing them and not letting things go. So I think that that's something that we kind of have to be cognizant of as well. So yes, you wrote the letter, but when she took that letter and made it what she wanted it to be, then that's when we need to go to lunch.
Okay? Right, exactly. Like, let's run it back. And literally my response, like, let's run it back, because I don't think you heard me. I said, so you're right. I should have really stepped back into that driver's seat and just been like, no, I'm still bothered by this.
And explained like how it made you feel. Like, well, when you said this, even if that's not what you thought you said, that's how I interpreted it. And when that was said, this is the feeling that it gave me. And then that was something that was bothering you for months.
Girl, months. You see, I was in my therapist's office telling her about it. She was like, girl, you have to write this. You have to address this.
And then there was another thing.
Clarification is needed. Absolutely.
It is needed a lot of the time. There was another one too. I always ask the question, if I did it to you or say it to you, would you be cool? And we know the answer.
Right. No, right. The answer is no, you would not be cool with it. So
absolutely.
So I feel like another reason why we don't address issues is fear of the response. So the thing around that is that you never know when you take something to somebody, how they're going to respond. I could bring you something like, hey, sis, when you did X, Y, and Z, you offended me. And you could be like, oh, well, I don't care. I would like to. Right, next. I would like to think that most people don't operate like that, but it's always the chance that you can take something to somebody and they don't have the response that you were hoping for, or they don't respond at all.
Right.
So I just think, and we had talked about this before, I think that also when you take something to somebody, Go in it without any expectations and
Expectation.
make sure you've already done the healing work.
You
Because
got to
if
do your inner work first.
Listen, because if you take it to somebody and they're just like, I don't care, and your feelings are outcome dependent on their response,
Hmm.
it's not going to be a good experience. So,
And
like
it
you
won't
said,
be.
no, it won't
Hmm.
be, So, somebody
I
said
think
people,
also, I think also though, just another reason people don't address the elephant in the room and is their pride and ego.
oh,
You don't want
absolutely.
to let somebody know, you don't want to be vulnerable and let them know, like, hey, I'm bothered by this, and take it a step further, like, this hurt me. You know what I'm saying? There's a level of maturity and a level of vulnerability that has to be had to pull that person aside and ask, to have that conversation. It's so much easier to just cut them off, okay, cut it and keep it moving. So, but there's no healing that comes from that.
And
But
I think also with that, we live in a society that kind of promotes everybody being a savage. My cutoff game is strong, on to the next, all of that. So a lot of times when situations like that happen, to the public, the person is like,
mm-hmm.
oh, on to the next. Or even within ourselves, we like cutoff game strong, and we don't actually feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said this the other day. It's like, so when we get off Facebook, we turn all the lights and shine off, then it's all like,
How
oh,
you really feeling?
hey, right, how you really
You was
feeling about it?
savage on Facebook. You was savage on Instagram.
Right,
Cut them off. But when you put that phone down, how do you really feel? How do you really feel
exactly.
about the situation? Yeah.
Exactly. And that goes back to your point earlier, in being authentic about your true feelings around that.
Barbara said, I'm a savage. My cutoff game strong. Okay, sis. Because I'm right there with you. But and it also depends on the person too. And we're gonna get into that a little deeper into our agenda because we jumping all over the place. Tia just ahead of me. Slow down. Okay. But yeah. Yeah.
But
And
I
sometimes
think
I do think though. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say to your point, it's about being authentic. So if that is truly your personality and that's how you feel, that then that's fine. But if that's not, like you said, really your personality and you're putting on that facade, I think that's where, like you said, you understand that there's really no healing going on and you're not being transparent with the other person.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sis. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you now,
Okay.
but I didn't hear what you just said. It went blank.
Oh, so I was basically saying that if that is your personality, where your cutoff game is strong, you a savage,
Hmm.
and that's your authentic self, more power to
Then
you.
you being authentic. Right.
More power to
But
you.
90% of the time, a lot of people ain't really that savage. Okay.
Right. And so it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's about being authentic. And so it's like if something really is bothering you, it's no healing or no growth in pretending like it doesn't. So whatever your response is, just making sure that you're authentic in that.
So I got a question for you, or just a question to put out there. Why do you think we are more forgiving to some than others?
I would say that sometimes, and I think someone actually put this in
Hmm.
they already
Yeah, she was
answered it.
already ready. I saw she was
Yeah, I was
already
like,
ready.
she was already ready.
Maisha already in our agenda. Back up, Maisha.
Right, but we gonna address that.
We about
And
to
she
get
said
in it.
it's like sometimes I feel like it's the value that we place on the other person.
Hmm.
In particular, if that person kind of pulls at the heartstrings, or you could see this a lot of times in romantic relationships, that we tend to kind of overlook and be a little bit more forgiving in those
Forgiving.
situations.
Hmm. I think also it just depends on like what that person brings to your life. Like what do they bring to the table? So yeah, you treat me like crap, but I mean, you bring a smooth 8 figures. I might just sit there and
Right,
be okay with it.
right, exactly.
So
So I
it
think
depends.
overlook some things.
Yeah, but I still think that ain't healthy though. But it depends on your situation. It depends. And then also insecurity.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if
absolutely.
you can, there's a void that can be filled, or a void that will be left if you address that person the way you feel like you should be addressed, and then they bounce. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you weren't prepared for that action, then, you know, that's something else you would have to work through.
So, sis, I'm gonna run it back a little bit with that comment. So, going back to sometimes it can depend on the value that we place on the other person.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, and I've seen that sometimes as women, we're a little bit more forgiving to that man that dogged us out versus our girlfriend that we had just a minor misunderstanding. What's your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on that?
Girl, it's the truth. It's the truth. We will cut, and you know what? I feel like we will cut off our best friend. We will
Mm-hmm.
cut off. I mean, I ain't gonna go as far and say your mama, but you might cut off a
I
cousin.
mean, I
You might cut
mean,
off a cousin before you cut off a dude. Okay.
right.
Who treating you like trash. And I feel like that's definitely something that we have to look inside and figure out, why is that? Why is it so much easier for me to cut my girlfriend off, who I've been friends with for 15 years, because she said something that I didn't like, or she came at me crazy, but homeboy over here been doing God knows what, and it keeps coming
For
to light,
years.
and I keep accepting it.
For years.
Years, okay,
Years. Still acting a
years.
fool.
So, I mean, I definitely think that's where it comes into play, us being authentic with ourselves and being able to really look in the mirror and be like, what is your insecurity? What is your fear? Why are you accepting this behavior from X, Y, and Z? Is it fear of being alone? Is
Sure.
it fear of, being labeled as not successful because you don't got a person? Or, what exactly is it? And I feel like that's when we have to address the elephant in the mirror at that
Right. Okay,
time.
then. Okay.
And figure out what the issue is.
And I will add to that by saying around insecurity, I feel like sometimes, especially as women, we operate from a mindset of scarcity. I'm that,
Woo!
woo, woo.
Scarcity
And
mindset.
that scarcity mindset.
That's
And we
all
can,
you're going to keep attracting. If we have that scarcity mindset, that is all we will continue to attract.
absolutely. So when we're operating from that scarcity mindset, and I'm saying let me put it back on me. I've
Mm-hmm.
been in situations where I'm making statements like, I'm never going to meet anyone that I like as much. I'm never going to meet anyone that does X, Y, and Z. And it kept me in situations
Mm-hmm.
that I should have long exited from.
And don't let them be fine.
Oh, listen.
Don't let them be fine, because then that's a whole nother 6 months that you got to work
Right,
through. You be like, dang.
right. And you find too.
Yeah. My gosh. And don't let him have money. Don't let him be fine, have money. Girl, then that's another year that you
I
just
was
added
gonna say
on.
now we had a whole nother year. Now we had a
That's a
whole
whole nother
nother year.
year. Mm. Okay, so
So
what else we got?
and so that goes into my next question for you. I'm gonna put it back on you. Would you say,
Mm-hmm.
and some will already address this, that we are as women, we are more likely to hold grudges against females than males?
Oh my God.
I'm still mad
Sis.
at someone.
I might have to sit up for this one. I'm gonna have to sit up for this one. Absolutely. Absolutely. We are definitely more willing, and we feel more okay with holding grudges towards females than males. Now, I'm going to take it a little back. I think that it could even come from our childhood, because when girls are raised, we're raised harder, okay? You
Mhm.
clean this, you do that, you do this. Like, you don't be fast. You don't wear those type of clothes. You don't sit on a man's lap. You don't do this type of stuff. But then boys, they're not raised like that. They just to
Right.
get to run around and go be free. So I think it comes from just even infancy, where we're harder on women and girls than we are on males and boys. And that's my opinion. I think that is definitely something that we do, and we find it easy to do.
I was absolutely. Now, do you have any like personal situations around that where you it's do I, huh?
Whew, okay. So, girl, I actually had a situation where it was my best friend in college, and we were friends for like probably, I don't even know, a smooth 4 years, like our whole college career. She and I were really, really close friends. And I was in a relationship at the time with a narcissist. And I don't even want to say toxic, because I feel like toxic ain't strong enough, okay? Because he was a narcissist.
Okay.
And she knew how controlling he was. She knew how he had this like level of, I don't even know what to call it, but just control over me that I didn't even think was possible for me to give that type of control to somebody. And so she knew the dynamic of our relationship. And she ended up meeting one of his guy friends. And, you know, to me, I always think that's trouble anyway. Like if I'm dating somebody and then you start talking to his friend, something gonna happen.
That's what I always
Okay.
feel like. I just feel like it's the recipe for disaster. But you know what?
Disaster. But what we
But
gonna do? So she started talking to his friend, and girl, let me even tell you, they had the same name. My dude and the dude that she started talking to
okay.
had the same name. But anyways, so she starts talking to him, and my boyfriend at the time had shared some information with me about his friend that I felt that as a friend I owed it to her because I saw how quick she was falling for this dude. Like it hadn't even been like a week and she was like head over heels. And I'm like, girl, you know, just pump the brakes a little bit. Like just, you know, this is what I heard from my dude, you know, and I'm really not even supposed to tell you this, but if the tables were turned, I would want you to look out for me. So this is what was said. And I think you should just play it cool. Like, I'm not saying don't talk to him. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, see how he acts, see if his actions match up with his words, and just take it slow. Because, I mean, she was falling
You
fast.
were looking out for it.
I was trying to. Girl, can we just talk about how sis threw me all the way under the bus? Mind you, I said I was dating a narcissist and he was controlling and he had control over me, right? So I got in trouble. Let me put it that way.
No, she threw you under the
Girl,
bus.
threw me all the way under the bus. So she went to the dude she was talking to, revealed the source. You never reveal the
Never,
source.
never.
Especially if they tell you, like, I'm looking out for you. Like, I ain't even supposed to tell you this, but this is what was said. Like, just kind of slow down a little bit. Girl, she threw me all the way under the bus. And I felt so betrayed because the type of woman that I am, like, let's just say my dude cheat on me. I'm not getting mad at the girl. I'm coming at
No,
you.
exactly.
You don't got no loyalty to me. So I'm the type of girl where I would want somebody to tell me if it's a heads up, like, girl, okay, do your thing, you grown, but I just want you to know X, Y, and Z so I can move accordingly. But girl, I lost my best friend because I
No.
had to address the elephant in the room. I'm
Yeah.
sis. And she was upset with me because she felt like it was selfish of me to tell her that, which I was confused. And she thought it was selfish of me to expect her not to reveal the source. And for me, I was just confused because my brain don't work like that. Brain don't work like that. So I ended up losing my best friend and I got in trouble. Okay. I should have left him after that, but I didn't. It took a few more instances, you know, before I had the courage to leave him. But it was a terrible experience because even when I addressed the elephant in the room with her, I reached out a few times because she and I haven't talked for years. And it was crazy because we were, somebody said, I stopped telling people about that nigga a long time ago. And that was a lesson.
Listen, that's a whole nother podcast.
But it was a takeaway. It was actually one of my biggest takeaways because, like I said, I'm the type of person I want to know. Hit me with the woman to woman. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna tell you
Come
thank
to
you.
me as a woman, please.
Woman to woman, I'm gonna tell you thank you, and then I'm gonna go hit my nigga up. What you've been doing? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I just felt so betrayed because you know I ended up losing my friend, and when I tried to reach out to her and be like, look, you know, let's just clear it up, blah blah blah. Like she was okay, but she wasn't like. It didn't seem like she missed me as much as I missed her, and that's okay. And that's okay. That's okay. But I just felt like she really held that grudge, even though I tried to address the elephant in the room. But one thing that I can definitely say is we're not telling you that every time you address the elephant in the room, the relationship is going to continue. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, and here's a gem, make sure you have peace about that situation. So if I were to go back to Tia's example earlier, where she addressed the person in the church, she sent them a letter. When you send that letter, be okay if you don't get a response. Be okay if they respond and it's not exactly how you want to do it, because that means that you've done your own inner work where you're not going to be hurt by anything that that person says. So do your inner work first and then be okay with whatever response they give you because you had the opportunity to speak your piece.
Oh, right. And like you said, that's another gem. do your inner work. So like you said, no matter what the response is, if the person says is receptive, great. If the person isn't receptive, great. If it's a bad whatever it is, you're okay because you've already done the healing work.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not outcome dependent on what they're doing.
And I think
So,
sometimes when we address them, though, I don't think we do that work first the majority of the time.
nope.
So then when we go to like tell this person like you hurt me, and they like, so you know what I'm saying, or they like, okay, that's not what I said, but like we get hurt more. So it's very important to do your work first, so you're taking your power back from that person, and that's a gem. Snatch that power back, get them keys, because that's what Tia said. Don't let them get in your driver's seat. Get your keys back, okay? And let them know, hey, this is my truth. This is how I feel about it. I'm going to let you know. And it doesn't have to be disrespectful. It doesn't have to be disrespectful.
No.
Let me say it like that. Please don't let it be disrespectful, because
Right.
then you're taking away the value and the impact of what you're trying to share and the message that you're trying to get across.
And that's the thing with addressing the elephant in the room. Like you said, it doesn't have to get nasty. The conversation doesn't have to go to I'm cussing you out, you cussing me out. It can be very respectful.
Right.
In fact, it should be. Right. In fact, it should be.
And we're going to give y'all some tips a little further down on how to do that.
So I got to be transparent with you. I have been your friend in that situation where I got to be honest with you, where somebody tried to bring me some information about my man, and I found myself getting upset with them and falling out with them. Meanwhile, I'm still running around or running after the guy that then acted a complete fool. So story time.
Tell us more, sis. Tell us more.
I'm just on here telling all my little business, but that's okay. Hopefully I can help somebody with this. So this was several years ago. I had just started at a job. And I quickly became friends with several ladies at the job. So, like, we would go to lunch, we would hang out on the weekends, and we were building, like, a pretty strong friendship. So one of the guys at the job ended up expressing interest in me. So he started showing out, sis. He started bringing flowers to the job. He bringing lunch. So I was feeling myself.
Was he fine?
Girl, he was fine. And he was tall, too.
Tall and he fine.
So I'm feeling myself. Okay. So one of the ladies, she pulled me off to the side and she was like, hey, you know, you and old boy seem to be getting really close. I just want to let you know, like a couple of weeks ago before you started, he was up here talking about how he was so in love with X, Y, and Z. And now all of a sudden y'all super close and he head over heels about you. I'm not saying, you know, what dude is or isn't doing, but I'm just trying to bring the information to you so you can be aware of it and move accordingly. So I'll be honest, at that time, I was not very mature where I could just take that information and take it for what it was worth, that, hey, sis was just trying to look out for me. So I immediately go into, oh, she hating, she's just jealous, you know, he's doing X, Y, and Z. This, that, and so forth. So long story short, I did not listen to the warning. So as time goes on, he's starting to show like more red flags, starting to show more of his true colors and the and the inconsistency. So it turned out that there was another girl in the picture. And do you want to know how this all played out?
Girl, go ahead.
So one night, I'm on Facebook. I'm just playing around on Facebook. And somebody jumps in my inbox on Facebook. And she was like, I'm not going to tell you more than once. You need to leave my man alone. If I hear anything else about you, I'm coming up to the job and I'm shooting the job up. So she said, I'm about to shoot the job up. So, and right. So, at the same time, now I guess he figures out that she didn't got my information. She's blowing up my inbox, going off. He's on the line talking about she's crazy. I don't know what's going right. Right. So this is all going down
But shoot the job up though, because that's what was replaying in my head. She about to shoot the job.
Right. Like, why not him? Why the whole
Right.
job?
And that's what I don't like. I don't understand why females like, why are you coming for me? Why are
Right.
you coming for me? You need to go talk to Jaquan over there and figure out why he over here sending me flowers at work.
Right, exactly. So basically, this is all playing out. We all arguing this, that, and so forth. Now, mind you, me and him, we got to go back to work the next day. So at
Right.
this point, he's scared. He don't know if she about to come up to the job shooting. He don't know if I'm going to HR. He don't know
And
if
I'm
I'm going
going to work because you're not about to play with my coins. I'm
You're
going.
not about to stop the bag. You're not about to stop the bag. So I was definitely there at 8 a.m. for work. So lipstick check. I'm good.
Lipstick check. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was definitely there at 8 a.m. for work. So in the midst of all that, I guess he got scared that I was going to go out him to my supervisor. So he goes into the office and basically he's putting it back on me and making it like it was crazy, like I'm the crazy one. He's like, I mean, it wasn't even all of that. I brought her some flowers a few times. Then she started taking it to the next level and basically pinning it all on me. My supervisor, she leaves her office after they had that conversation and basically starts discussing it with the rest of the staff members.
The supervisor?
And the supervisor, right. The supervisor, right? So the same ladies that I was kind of like, oh, y'all just jealous, this, that, and so forth, they have it.
Somebody take Maisha's phone. Take Maisha's phone, okay? I love it. I love it.
Oh,
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
no, you fine. So basically, she comes back out to the same ladies that basically I was kind of flexing on and lets them know, like, this is what happened, what y'all know about this, that, and so forth. So I'm at work getting clowned. You know, I'm walking in, people are whispering, this, that, and so forth.
Now you got a toxic work environment.
Hey, listen, all because of old boy.
That's why I don't play where I get paid. Okay, I don't play where I get paid. But you gotta learn that. It had to be learned.
That was a hard lesson to learn. So pretty much, I get off work, I go back home, I'm back on back on Facebook, and the ladies from the job, they're basically, because we're all friends on Facebook, they basically throwing like jabs, they cracking jokes, this, that, and so forth. So it's interesting that I wasn't bold enough to check him, but I jump in their comments and I'm going off on them. What you not about to do, this, that, and so forth. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I was so forgiving and ready to just sweep aside what he did, but I was quick to jump on them.
You was ready to fight. You was about to take your earrings off.
Listen, I was about to pull up. So anyway, you know, I'm going back and forth with them. I'm checking them, this, that, and so forth. And in the midst of all of that, I'm at the same time, like reaching out to him, trying to get closure or understanding from him. And again, it goes back to the point that I was so quick to jump on them, but when it came to checking him, I'm, hey, how you feeling? This, that, and so forth. And so to bring it back to your example with your friend, and you were just like, sis, like, what is you doing? I think having have been in that spot, when I look at my actions at that time, it was coming from a place of basically lack of maturity. I'm mad, or I don't want to face the reality or the possibility of what he did. So it was just much easier to lash out at everybody else.
So let me ask you this, though. So now that we are in that mature phase of our lives, do you think that it would be better to share the information? Like, now, that would you have wanted her to still tell you? Or do you think it would have been better if she just would have been like, nah, she on her own. She'll figure it out. Like, what do you think now, hindsight?
Sure. So now that I'm at this mature stage in my life, I absolutely would want somebody to bring that information to me, because now I'm mature enough, like you were saying, your situation. If you bring me something about a guy or anybody, I'm mature enough where I can say, okay, noted. I can hold on to this. And then now I'm going to watch the person's action and make the necessary adjustments as I need to. as
It would have
opposed.
been easier to leave and not fall as hard.
Exactly. So like you said, now that we're in this mature state of life, I definitely would say, oh, I would appreciate somebody bringing that to me.
Hmm. Yeah. So do you have any situations, because I know we sharing tea, so we sharing. Do you have any situations where you have fallen out with a family member over a guy?
Absolutely. Not
Ooh.
probably, but absolutely. So
Mm.
when I was engaged and I was planning, I was going through the engagement and I was planning my wedding, I had a lot of, I guess, pushback from not only friends but family members. They did not support my decision because my ex-husband, excuse me, is significantly older than I am. And so I knew you weren't gonna let me just gloss over that.
Do tell. What's significantly? Let's ask the people.
20,
Y'all want to know what's significant, or is it just me being nosy? Thumbs up in the
20.
chat if you want to know. Thumbs up in the chat. Okay, let me see them thumbs, because I know I'm not the only one who want to be nosy.
We talking 20 plus years, sis.
Mm.
We
But
talking
was he
20.
fine?
He was fine. He was fine, sis.
Okay. So they didn't agree with it because of the age difference, or was there other things that they saw?
Primarily it was the age difference, and then as time went on there was other things that they saw, but
Okay.
as the example that I gave earlier, when you are in love and you feeling what you feeling, you like, I'm not really, don't bring me nothing. You know?
Age
Let
ain't nothing but a number.
Exactly.
Okay.
Don't bring me nothing. Let me be happy. And so when we talk about addressing the elephant in the room, so now obviously that situation is, no longer during that time, based on a lot of like the disrespect and some of the comments that I experienced from people. Like I fell out with like several family members to where we weren't
Mm-hmm.
talking at all. And even now that a situation is no longer, there's still some family members that I'm still not speaking to, and I have not pulled them to the side and addressed that issue.
Mm. So do you have plans to address the issue, or what are your thoughts around that?
So I'll be honest with you around that. There is probably some more healing work that needs to be done.
And that's mature. That's mature.
I'm gonna just be real honest with you.
Right.
Because during that time, I really, really could have used that support from some of those family members, and to experience like the negative comments, the ridicule. It was very, very hurtful. So, will I address it one day? Yes. Am I ready to address that now? No.
Because they might still get punched right now if you ain't did your work.
I mean, even talking about it now, I'm still getting a little tight. So I'm like, yeah, there's some more healing work that needs to be done around that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's it. That's it, and that's all. And I think, like we said, that's mature of you to be able to know that you can't handle that situation right now, or you're just not ready to. Some people in the chat said they ain't gonna talk. They ain't gonna talk about it at all, and that's okay.
And
But
that's okay
sometimes
too.
that's okay. But sometimes you need to really be able to like free yourself and be able to hold those people accountable. She said, "I be fighting people." I need to quit reading these comments. I need to quit.
I'm getting
I
all
don't know
off
how to
track. I'm
get it
like,
off
what the
my screen. I don't know how to get it off my screen. But no, sometimes like for your own healing, you need to be able to look that person in the eye and hold them accountable for the things that they said to you and the way that they made you feel, because sometimes that stuff is just out of line. Out of line.
Very true. But to play off of what the last comment was, do you feel like, or what do you feel about the statement of that some things don't even deserve a response?
Oh, for
So,
sure. If you have
yeah,
peace with it, if you
that's
have
the thing.
peace with not addressing it, then that's fine. But if it's something that, like, you still talking about it, you still felt a little tight, you still felt your heart rate increase a little bit, then we need to have a conversation. And maybe we can't have that conversation right now, but that's something that you got to write down in your to-do list because you still feel a type of way. But if y'all don't care, you don't feel no type of way about it, then it's a non-issue. It's a non-factor.
And the thing about that, that's where the honesty and transparency within yourself has to come into play. Because if you can truly say, hey, I'll lay my head down at night, have no problems going to sleep, I don't think about this, I'm fine, I'm healed, then that's fine, you know. But again, if there's a situation where you still tight and you still harboring that and you feel like you need to address it, then address it.
Right. Okay. Let's see what else
So
we got.
I got a question for you. Can you forgive? It's back on you because
I
I
don't
done
like
told
when you
all my
throw it
little
back
business.
on me.
Right, because I done
Try
told
that.
all my little business.
You did tell all
So,
your tea.
can you forgive / move on and not deal with the person?
Oh, absolutely. You absolutely can. I think, actually, you know what? I got a quote I came across yesterday that's talking about that. I'm gonna read it. It says, I reserve. Well, first of all, let's repeat your question. Can you forgive a person and move on without talking to them anymore, leave them alone, whatever? So the answer is, I reserve my energy, my time, and my spirit for those who make me feel at ease.
There it
That's it,
is.
and that's all.
That's
That's
it.
it, and that's all. I reserve my energy, my time, and my spirit for those who make me feel at ease. So if you make me have anxiety, if you make me question myself, if you make me, or you even ask me the question, who do you think you are? Okay, now we got to have a conversation because I'm me, and that's more than enough. Okay. And that's more than enough. And I think that's something that, at least for me, I wasn't confident enough to really see how dope I am until I had to really do some inner work and do the elephant in the mirror work. I had to
Yeah,
really look at myself and be like, you know what? Yes, you had to overcome sexual assault. Yes, you had to overcome a narcissistic, domestically violent relationship. Yes, you had to overcome being molested. Yes, you had to overcome all these things. But girl, you are fire.
yeah,
Okay? Like
absolutely.
anybody, they are blessed to have you in their lives. They are blessed to be able to pick up the phone and text you. They are blessed to be able to even have a conversation with you because I am amazing. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to get my actually like 6 weeks ago. Okay, so this is new.
I'm
Okay,
still working on it.
this is
Right.
new. This is new. I started a self-care journey. I started a self healing journey where I took my power back. I took it back from my parents. I took it back from my man. I took it back from any situation because at the end of the day, when I die, it's just me. It's just
Absolutely.
me. It's
Mm-hmm.
just me. And I feel like I have to be okay with who I am. I have to be okay with every single decision that I make. So I can forgive you. And I do. I'm gonna even share a very sensitive situation where I had to forgive a family member who molested me.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I did though is I held that person accountable. It had been like 22 years or something that had passed, but I remembered what that person did to me. And I remember being in college, it was my freshman year, and I was taking a psychology class. And when I was in that class, I just kept feeling this anxiety. I just kept feeling like, oh my God, like, why did these things happen to me? Why wasn't I protected? All of this stuff. And so I came to the realization that, you know what? This person's still alive. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
we gonna
Absolutely.
talk about it. We gonna talk about it. And let me just tell you the amount of fear that overcame me when I made that decision to figure out, why did this person think it was okay to do X, Y, and Z to me? And I was scared. I was shaking in my boots. I didn't know kind of how I was going to start the conversation. And this person, obviously, I went to UC for school. That's not where my family is. So I had to make a trip up home. I had to go home to have this conversation. And basically, I asked the person to meet. And one thing that I would say is give the person a heads up that you want to kind of have a serious conversation, because I hit them with the blind side. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I remember being 3 and you did X, Y, and Z. You know, talk me through what was going on with you at that time. Like, why did you think that that was something that was okay? And I want you to know, even if you don't remember, because that's what the person said. Like, oh, that's not what happened. That's not. I don't remember that. Well, I do. I
Right.
do. So before I even had that conversation with that person, like we told you guys before, I was okay with whatever response they gave me, because I knew for a fact that 20 something years later, there's no way that they ever thought they were going to have to atone for the actions that they did. But they did. They did. They didn't say sorry, anything like that. They were in denial. But the fact that I had the balls to come to your face and ask you, why did you do that? I was okay.
Well, sis, first of all, I want to commend you for having the courage to stand up for yourself. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is major. The fact that you stood up for yourself and you addressed that person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of work with clients around sexual abuse, and that is a scary thing to have to,
Very.
oh my goodness. And
Mm-hmm.
from talking with my clients, a lot of times the pressure that they feel from surrounding, from family members, of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to keep that a secret because they don't want to
Right.
be comfortable exposing that family member, especially if this is a family member that's still coming around. So
Mm-hmm.
for you to be like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, we are going to acknowledge this. We're going to address it. This is what happened. And you were okay with whatever the response was.
And that's the growth. I had to be okay first with whatever was going to come after that. And I
Hmm.
was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So while we're on the topic of family members, how do
Ooh, I
how
wanted to get
do
off that topic.
right, how do you deal with toxic family members?
Whoo, child. Mm. Okay, so I'm going to say this is how you deal with toxic family members. First of all, you have to, one, boundaries. Create boundaries for yourself. What are some things that you are okay with people doing to you, saying to you? How are you okay with people treating you? And create your boundaries. After that, you got to like set those boundaries with those people. Like, okay, let's have a talk. Let's have a talk. This is something. And she said this on them.
I mean, sometimes that's necessary. I'm not even gonna lie.
Sometimes you do, but I think it would be fair to give them the opportunity to realize the severity of the situation. So I'll give another example, but real quick, let me get back to, so create boundaries, set those boundaries, relay those boundaries to them, and then do not deviate from those boundaries. So that's a gem, okay? Dealing with toxic family members, create your boundary, okay? Relay that boundary to them, which is the same thing as setting it, and then do not deviate from that boundary.
Absolutely, because I feel like a lot of times in those situations, we can deviate away from those boundaries. So we'll be in a situation and it'll be like, oh, they seem like they're kind of coming around and they're doing better. And we start
Mm-hmm.
relaxing those boundaries. We start getting
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. And then,
Especially if they're your elder. Because then you're like, oh God, here go grandma again. Jesus.
right. So we relax those boundaries and standards, and then we find ourselves in the same situation time and time and time again. What's that statement? The definition of insanity is doing the same
Doing
thing
the
over
same
and
thing
over
and
and expecting different
expecting a
results.
different result.
So
Period. You're not gonna
it,
get it.
right, exactly. So I mean, definitely it's a gem of don't deviate from those boundaries because oftentimes you will find yourself right back into the situation where you're like, this is why I set the boundaries to begin
In
with.
the first
Especially
place.
when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
And I think one other thing that I wrote down that I wanted to make sure I say is you tell people how to treat you. If you
Hmm.
don't tell people how to treat you, they're gonna treat you anyhow. They're gonna treat you any way that they feel is okay. So if you do not set those boundaries and let them know, like, hey, I'm not okay with that. And like we said, it doesn't have to be disrespectful, but you have to be able to have the courage to let them know what you will and what you will not accept.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so I have a question for you. So we talked a lot
Mm-hmm.
about like, toxic family members, narcissism. Is it just ever a situation where sometimes you just outgrow people?
Girl, yes. Yes. And you know what? Like, and that's okay. Like, before I even answer the question, it is okay to outgrow people. And that doesn't mean that you think you're better than them. It doesn't
No,
mean that, you know, you don't want to be friends with them or you mad at them. That's not what it means. But sometimes, like, you have to check and protect your energy. You have to protect your mental health at all costs, because nobody else is going to protect your mental health but you. You can go hire a
exactly.
therapist all you want to, and I commend you for doing that. But I feel like if you set those boundaries, okay, and you let people know how to treat you, what they can't, if they can't operate within those boundaries that you give them, then they gotta go.
They got to
They
go.
gotta go. And there's no hard feelings. And I feel like that's another gem. Growth doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to mean that we not cool. It don't have to mean that I got an attitude. Like, we just not in the same place right now. And that's okay. That don't mean that maybe 5 years down the line we can't come back. But
Right.
right now, like, I'm focused on more important things for me, that I don't have the extra energy, or I just don't want to share it.
Exactly. And it just goes back to the overall point of the importance of doing what's best for you. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, this is a
Absolutely.
situation and this relationship is no longer serving me, then it's it's my duty and my right for me to remove myself from that situation. Because
Yeah,
as you
somebody
stated,
said, oh, sorry. Sometimes people don't grow with you, they grow apart from you. And that could be a romantic relationship. That could
hmm
be with your parents. That could be with your grandparents. That could even be with your children. And like I'm saying, it doesn't have to be a forever thing, but it could just be a right now thing. Like, your energy don't match with my energy. You bring me
right.
down.
So I
Don't
got to
bring me
remove
down.
myself from that
I have to.
situation.
And that's your responsibility to remove
Yep.
yourself from that situation. And if you don't, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because the other person, cool, they fine. You hurting you.
Right. And I always say it's on you to get you where you need to be. Don't
Mm-hmm.
assign that job to somebody else. So absolutely, because it goes back to the point of what you were saying is like, if even if you are seeing a therapist and you are working, to a healthier mindset, if you aren't doing the inner work,
Your
you're going to
work.
be right back in the same cycle.
And that's the thing. Jim, break the cycle.
hmm
Break the cycle. Break the cycle. Break the cycle. I'm going to keep saying that. Break the cycle.
Break the
Because it will
cycle.
not, it
Absolutely.
won't break. It's like a circle. It's going to keep going until you put a kink in that thing.
Right. Right. And that kind of
Mm.
goes back into like our next topic or statement is that some relationships just need not be repaired. And I think somebody said that, like, hey, I'm just in the chat. I think somebody said that in certain situations, you just need to be done with it. And that goes
Mm-hmm.
back to the if you've outgrown the situation, because it's one of those things of, as we stated before, is like if it's no longer serving me, it's time for me to move on. And if the relationship
Mm-hmm.
comes back around, great. And if the relationship doesn't get repaired, then it wasn't meant to be.
Right. And that's okay.
hmm hmm
And that's okay. There was one thing that we kind of skipped over, though, that I wanted to go back to, is just how to have those tough conversations. So I want to make sure that we really touch on that. So I'm going to read this one. I ain't going to read that out loud. I'm going to read this word for word because I feel like it was really good. So we're talking about going back to how to deal with toxic family members. So our advice is to, one, have a private conversation with that person. Please don't address this person in front of everybody. This is not a dinner table conversation. This is not
Yeah.
a text message conversation. This is something where everybody needs to be prepared. So let them know, like, hey, can we chat on Monday? I want to take you to lunch. You even pay for the lunch, okay? I want to take you to lunch and, be able to talk. And sometimes we have to do that. So ask to have a private conversation with that person and share how their comments or their actions, like how it made you feel. And make sure you're using those I statements. Because if you say, well, when you did this, they already turned off and the conversation is about to be cut, because now they're coming from a place of defense. And that's not what we want. So instead of using the you, put it back on you and say, hey, like, this comment was made and this is how I felt, about it. And I wanted to, like, address you and kind of give you that opportunity to let you know how I felt. So talk to them privately, let them know how the actions made you feel. And then you got to butter them up a little bit. You can't just go ready to cut the jugular. Like, you got to be like, I value you as my aunt. I value you as my friend. So I wanted to just give you this opportunity to let you know, like, I've created new boundaries, and there are certain things that I just cannot allow in my life, and you are somebody that I would love to have, in my life. But if you can't respect A, B, C, D, then I think it's best that we kind of love each other from a distance and let them know that that's okay. And then you're putting it back on them to now they get to decide, is that relationship going to continue? Are they able to
Absolutely.
handle those boundaries? Or they get to decide, okay, that's fine. Girl, see you at the family reunion.
Right. Right. And that's their decision.
That's their
Um,
right.
One model that I use when I'm addressing someone, especially a tough situation, is the set model. Setting, environment, and time. So setting,
Mm.
like you said, I'm not going to address you at the wedding, the funeral, because that's not appropriate. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when you address people in front of an audience, you're going to get a performance. So you're going
Mm.
to get, you're,
Jim, don't address nobody because you're going to get a performance if you got an audience, okay?
so instead of a response that you might have gotten if you would have pulled them off to the side, you're going to get
Mm-hmm.
the response that, okay, now I need to defend myself in front of all of
Mm-hmm.
these people, which
Exactly.
more than likely is going to be a very different response if you would have pulled them off to the side. Also,
Mm-hmm.
the environment. Again, going back to setting, if we out and about, it's loud music, this, that, and so forth, I'm not going to address you then because I want to make sure that you understand the magnitude of the situation. And I can't
Mm-hmm.
expect you to take the situation seriously if I'm not taking the situation seriously, or I'm kind of like, oh, we out and about, it's kind of serious, it's kind of not. And then also
Mm-hmm.
time, making sure
Mm-hmm.
that you as well as the other person has enough time. So if like I see that you in a rush, you trying to get out of the door, again, I
Mm-hmm.
know I don't have your full undivided attention. So I'm probably not going to get the response that I would normally have gotten if you had the time set aside to address the situation.
That's so good, sis. So that was called set. So what was the S? Setting,
Setting,
E,
E, environment, and
environment,
time.
and time. That's a gem. Y'all caught that one.
You heard it
But
here
there's one
first.
thing I want to add, though. I want to add. So when you're asking to have this conversation with that person, right? You also have to be prepared after you share your truth that they might want to tell you about you. They might want to be like, okay, well, I appreciate you, letting me know that. But when you said blah, 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 okay, this is how I felt. So you also have to be in a place, in my opinion, to accept, you know, feedback or accept hearing about how they experienced you as well. Even though you initiated the conversation to address the elephant in the room, you also have to give them that time to address their elephants with you as well.
And that's something that, if I'm honest, that I really struggle with because I get into the mindset that, like, and this is not good. I'm working on it, but if I'm bringing, I'm working on it. I'm doing my healing work. But if I'm bringing you something, it's my moment. I just want to talk about what I want to talk about. But I mean, you raise a good point
Mm-hmm.
that you have to be open and receptive to, just like, you want to be heard. When you let them know what your issues are, they feel the same way. And so you have to be receptive and be able to place yourself in their shoes. So they may come back, well, okay, yeah, I understand you feeling this way, but my actions, and I did X, Y, Z because you did what you did. So
Barbara, you need to grow up. Okay. You need to hear about yourself too.
I didn't even.
You need to hear about yourself. Okay. And that's the thing. Like I'm glad that you shared that you're the type of person where you don't want them to use your time. But me, I do. Let's air it all out. We can sit here for 4 hours as long as my baby is taken care of, okay? And my man got some food to eat. We can sit here all day and air it all out because after we end this conversation, I don't want to have to readdress something that's uncomfortable with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want us to be able to move forward and either decide, yes, we're going to continue our friendship and our relationship, or no, we not. I don't want to have to come back. Don't call me 5 days later when you could have just told me what your issue was when we was talking.
And that's why, I think, like you said, it's so important to address that right then, because you don't want to draw out a conversation in months and months and months and months, even years later, you still going over the same thing over and over again. So like you said, it's like when we decide to have the conversation, let's get it all out on the table. Let's get my problem, your problem, whoever's problem out on the table.
Or let them know, like, okay, I wasn't prepared to talk about that today. So can we reschedule? Because
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's okay too, to let them know, like, well, I kind of came prepared to talk about this. So can you get on my calendar? Okay. And then we can come back and talk about your issue. So
Get
there's
on
a
the calendar, huh?
question in here. I don't want to mispronounce her name, so I'm just not going to say it.
Okay.
But she said, do you go into the conversation with expectations or no expectations? So I think you might have joined a little later, because I think we talked about that. Tia, you want to put that in there, or you want
For
me to answer
sure.
it?
So definitely, like we were saying earlier, with those conversations, and this is a gem, manage your expectations, because if you go into a conversation, and I addressed this earlier, outcome driven, you are bound to get your feelings hurt, because if
Disappointment.
it's disappointment, because if I'm addressing you about something that you did that offended me, and my expectation is because I'm hyped up, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
emotional, I'm crying, I'm upset, you need to have the same response, and you don't, I'm going to be very disappointed when I don't get that response. So it goes back to what you were saying earlier. You want to make sure that you've done the healing work,
In the
and you want to
work.
make sure
Mm-hmm.
that your expectations are managed. So if whatever the person's response is, whether good, bad, or indifferent, you're like, okay, that's fine. I got off my chest what I needed to get off, and it doesn't matter what your response
What
is,
your
because
response is. And
I'm
you don't got to be rude with it, but
right.
you need to go into that conversation knowing that you can handle whatever they're going to throw at you.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Barbara said there's no reschedule. And that's how I feel. Let's talk about it now.
There's no,
Okay. Because don't call me next week. You want to talk about something that I did 3 years ago when we just sat down on Monday and I aired out what I had to say. Don't call me.
and she said there's no reschedule.
None. Okay. So just to kind of recap that one. So use your I statements. Make sure you use the set rule. Was the situation? What's the S, child?
Setting, environment,
Okay, setting. Yes. And then time.
setting, environment, and time. Yep.
Use your I statements. Make sure you've already done your work so you're okay with whatever response that person is giving you. And then clear it all up and let it go.
And let it go.
Okay, so we talked about loving people at a distance. We said that was okay. Did we talk about some relationships not needing to be repaired? I think we talked about that, right?
We did touch on that. And we that one is just kind of, we left it as some relationships just need not to be repaired. There's certain
Mm-hmm.
situations that even after you've done the healing work, you address the elephant in the room and all that, we done.
Right.
you know,
We done.
and we
Okay.
don't. We don't
And
need
I
to
have peace.
reschedule. We don't
I
need
have
nothing.
peace. I have
Right.
peace. So that's the thing. Do you have peace with that relationship not being repaired, or do you feel like it has left a void? Like, did that person mean enough to you where you kind of want to fix it, or are you cool with them hitting the road? So you have to
Right.
once again go back to that inner work.
Absolutely. Oh,
We
I know
almost
what.
done, y'all. We almost done. We about to get to the juicy juice. Go ahead. What was you about to say?
There was one statement, and I had meant to mention this when we were talking about family earlier. What about the statement, or when people hit you with, but we family though, after they do something foul or just toxic or just terrible, that they hit you with, but we family though?
And what
Right.
that mean? What and I guess for me, like, maybe my situation is different because my mom was in the military, so I moved around my whole life. I didn't really have family all in one city, so maybe it's easier for me to cut it up. And that doesn't mean that it's right, but if you even have to tell me, but we family, you toxic and we got a problem.
Exactly. The fact that you need to even make that statement after you've done something just really just tells me everything that I need to know.
We don't need nothing, but we family. So
Oh, right, exactly. Exactly. Same thing still applies, whether friend, family, or otherwise. If you are toxic or the situation is no longer serving me, I'm going to remove myself from the situation and do what's best for me. Family,
it
friend, foe, or otherwise.
exactly. And the thing is if we really family, then you should love me for me. You should love me for where I'm trying to get to. You should love me for my journey. You should respect me. That's what family means. Family don't mean we share the same bloodline. That don't
Right.
mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. Y'all saw that Kevin Hart movie. What his brother do? What his brother do? Okay, his brother set him up, was about to take his $6 million. Even though that's a movie, I'm sure that happens. I'm sure that happens. So if we are family, then you should treat me with respect. You should encourage me. You should pray for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should be
Absolutely.
there for me. You should be somebody I could come to. You know what I'm saying? If I'm going through something, I shouldn't have to go through anything on my own if we family. But if you're using that as a way to be manipulative, then I got a problem. And now I need to address the elephant, and I'm going to address it right now.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So
All
let's get to
right,
the
so we got
uncomfortable part. It's not even
um,
that bad. It's not even that bad. Go ahead.
so we got really one more topic, and we had kind of addressed this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is those, especially this time around the year? You know, we got Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. The awkward family dinners because of family secrets. How we
That,
how we addressing those? How we handling those, sis?
you know what? I think we are woke enough. I think we have done enough work to where it's time to start exposing these Uncle Toms, Uncle
Come
Richard,
on in.
Uncle Sammy, Auntie, whomever. It's time to start exposing. So as I mentioned earlier, I was a probation officer and I managed a caseload of sex offenders. And I want to tell you guys the majority of people who offend, especially children, are family members. It's
Hmm.
grandpa, grandma, auntie, sometimes it's daddy. I didn't see too many daddies, step brother, the
Hmm.
neighbor, all of that stuff. And then for us to still be inviting that person to the table, to the dinner, like, first of all, you're not protecting the other children, the next
Right.
generation. So, in my opinion, if we are not addressing those conversations, and like we said, it does not have to be at the dinner table, it don't
Mm-mm.
have to be. But everybody need to know you need to watch your kids when they're around Uncle Sammy, okay? Because Uncle
Absolutely.
Sammy get a little touchy feely, and I feel like the men in the family, the mothers in the family, like Uncle Sammy needs to be addressed. And that's
Hmm.
the type of parent that I am. I don't care who I need to address. When it comes to mine,
Absolutely.
don't do it
It will
because I'm
be
gonna go to
addressed.
jail and I'm gonna take
Right.
these
It
pictures.
will
We
be
going,
addressed.
we going. It's gonna be addressed, and that's what I feel like the black community. And you know what? I ain't even gonna put it on black community. That's what family needs to be about. If there is
Hmm.
somebody who is harming these kids, you know what I'm saying? Or I don't care if it happened 10 years ago. It needs to be addressed. And I'm
Right.
passionate about it because it happened to me. I'm passionate about it. It needs to be addressed.
Right. And we're not keeping a secret. We're not protecting this person. We're not playing calm about it because we don't want to ruffle any feathers. Like you said, it's got to be addressed.
Girl, I done got tight, okay?
Listen,
I'm ready
it's
to fight.
it's a serious issue, you know, that like you
It is.
said, I think often just kind of gets glossed over in families because it's easier to keep a secret, you know,
Easier. Or it
because
happened 10 years ago. So that was then. This is now. Nah, baby.
right, that person's changed. Or another thing that I've seen with working in clients, they'll say family members will tell them it didn't happen quite like that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, mm-mm,
Mm-hmm. They're discrediting their experience. It don't matter
exactly.
how it happened. The fact that anything
It,
even
it
close
happened, right?
happened,
Exactly.
we got a problem.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
let me throw it back on you though, because you're the licensed therapist. So I really want to hear from you. Why do you think we hold on to these secrets?
Um, People don't want to feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times with family members, you know, if it is Uncle Sammy that is the offender, it's most, and especially if Uncle Sammy, come on, he's a nice guy. He's been through this. He's
He
done
the
this.
deacon in the church. He the
And,
deacon.
oh, listen,
He the
listen.
usher.
So I think for a lot of people, it's uncomfortable to address those things. And then also with a lot of times in families, you know, it puts other people in positions where they have to recognize the wrong that they may have done in the situation. So it's easier to keep it a secret in the minds of a lot of people because it keeps the family structure intact and it doesn't shake up the status quo. So I think that oftentimes, you know, people don't want to feel uncomfortable and they just take kind of the easy way out, you know. But I
But
think that
at the expense of the kids, that's the part I
and,
just can't fathom. At the
and that's
expense
the part that I'll never understand. Like you
and
said,
the
at the expense.
safety and the peace and the like, these kids they're gonna have to deal with that. Even if you don't think they're gonna remember, just like my situation where I addressed my offender and was like, hey, You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't forget, even if it's 20 something years later. Like, why are we holding on to these secrets? Like, that's a gem. Expose it.
Exactly, definitely expose it. And like you said, I want to key in on what you said. So people that are trying to protect themselves or be comfortable at the expense of a child, when we should be protecting our children and creating a safe space for them. So definitely it goes back to expose it. It's like, I'm not going to, at the expense of a child, protect the secrets just so we can play like everything is fine and hee haw at the family dinner so you can be comfortable. No, we're not doing that. Expose
And
it.
that's where I think it comes to the place of the type of world that we live in now. We get to create our family. You get to pick your friends and they can become
Mhm.
your family. You don't have to deal with that. You don't have to subject yourself to that. If that's something that people are not willing to be okay with and they think it's okay to let Uncle Sammy continue to run around, me and mine ain't going to be there.
Right. It's like, well, we won't be at the family dinner.
We won't be there. We
Right.
won't be there. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's do a recap because I done drank all this water. Homegirl got a pee, okay?
So we talked about a lot tonight. I
We
even
talked
talked about
about a
some
lot.
things I didn't even plan on talking about.
You really did. We did a practice run yesterday, and she surprised me a few times today.
Yeah, I see y'all. You was like, oh, are we going that direction? Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear that yesterday. Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
so
So
quick recap. You go ahead. I'll say a few. You say a few.
okay, sure. So the gym shared that the first one I want to discuss is when you avoid confrontational conversations, those feelings of negativity fester and build. And that person will end up doing something else. And it's like you're keeping a tally of everything. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna fester and build. So make sure you're not avoiding those conversations if it's something that needs to be addressed.
Yep. And then also, I don't know if we actually talked about this, but saying no is a
Oh,
form of
we did.
self-care.
We did.
Saying no is a form of self-care. Okay. You do not have to continue to overcommit, stress yourself out. Like, that's not taking care of yourself. So if somebody's asking you to do something and you really want to do it, like, it's okay to say no if you are already booked and busy, baby, because 2022 is about to
Right.
be booked and
We
busy.
booked in
So it's
business.
okay if you have to say no in some instances and avoid overcommitting.
Yeah, and I mean that one is a big one for me. We didn't talk about that earlier, but I mean, especially
Mm-hmm.
coming from someone, me, that's a people pleaser, I will find myself like just overcommitting myself. Like my calendar will be booked solid, and someone will be like, "Hey, Tia, can you help me move?" Sure, I'll be there. And then I
Mm-hmm.
find myself stressed and almost feeling like resentful towards the person because now I'm like, I have all these things to do, and the
Mm-hmm.
person probably, if I just told them, "Hey, look, I'm not going to be able to help you out," would have just understood, So definitely
Mm-hmm.
that's, like you said, saying no is a form of self-care.
It is. All right, you got the next one?
Sure. And we talked about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Managing your expectations. Never go into a situation expecting them to respond a certain way. Do your inner work first. And we talked a lot about that one. I think
Mm-hmm.
that all of these are important, but I really think that that one is like really, really hold in on that. Hold on to that one.
Mm-hmm. And then also, like, be honest with yourself. Make sure you do your own self-awareness check. Don't lose your friends over something that you would forgive your romantic partner for. We didn't
Oh,
get to talk about that, but that's one of the gems we had lined up for y'all. So we're gonna drop that. So I'm gonna say it again. Make sure you are being honest with yourself and you have done your self-awareness check. Don't lose your friends or somebody you really truly value because over something that you would forgive a romantic partner for.
absolutely. And we did, I will say, like with our experience and situation, we did kind of touch on that in terms of situations where we've been much more forgiving towards the man versus our
Mm-hmm.
girlfriends in the situations. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got the next one?
it's your responsibility to protect your peace at all costs. So basically, you got to put
All costs.
all costs. So basically, you got to put yourself in that driver's seat in your healing journey.
Absolutely. All right. And then you can address the elephant in the room and cut that person off too. That's okay.
Mhm.
Be aware of how you feel in your heart about that person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the last one, expose those secrets that need to be exposed. Put it out on the
Yep.
table.
Yep. And then last thing, because homegirl really got a pee, so I'm about to cut y'all off real quick, okay? But if you have enjoyed this conversation, this is something that Tia and I have decided to let it become a monthly event. And we're gonna have a different topic every month. But 2022, we're not bringing that baggage from 2021. We're not doing the same thing that we've done all these years before. This year, we are vowing to do our inner work. We are vowing to put ourselves first. We are vowing to be healthy, to be happy, to be whole, and to be wealthy. I don't know about y'all, but my million's on the way, okay? I don't know about you.
Say that.
I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it. So we are going to be doing this same type of thing here again, January 27th. And then I'm going to let Tia share what the topic going to be.
All right. So January 27th, our topic is going to be overcoming divorce. I see like, boom. I see y'all had like a lot of questions for me, and I apologize. Like, I'm new to the IG Live thing, so I didn't address a lot of those questions. But on our next podcast, and our next live, I will be addressing those questions. So that's going to be our next topic. So get your questions together, get your comments together, because we coming back.
We coming back. Overcoming divorce. I've been divorced for about 5 years now. Most people don't even know that. I got married young. And then Tia, how long have you been divorced?
About a year and a half. And judging by the comments, I'm seeing a lot of people did not know. Right, they didn't even know. So there's that.
Oh, well, wonderful. So you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for being active in the chat, asking questions, making us laugh. Maisha, put your phone down. Barbara, put your phone down.
I had to start reading the comments.
Girl, I don't know how to get it off my screen, so I couldn't help it. I'm like, dang, there go another one. I saw my mama jump in. I saw my daddy jump in. I saw my man jump in. So I had to be good. But I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed this. We have enjoyed you guys just being here. Thank you for your time, your effort, your energy, and your openness. I hope that this conversation has given you guys some gems to be able to assess if you're ready to address the elephant in the room in your life.
Definitely. And once again, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you all. And with that being said, we're going to see y'all January 27th.
Hey, book your lash appointment, though. Royal Treatment by Rania, the lash healer. Come see. I got some availability, okay? Tia, where your plug?
And make sure to schedule your one-on-one sessions with me with Evo Counseling. I mean, and again, in all seriousness, I know especially when you are going through different things, feel free to like just slide in my DMs, like text, whatever, and just say, hey, I'm dealing with this. I'm struggling. I need somebody to talk to. I'm here for you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Happy New Year. Woo!
Happy New Year.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
I don't even know how to hang this thing up. Let's see.
I'm still trying to read the comments.
All right, bye.